I wanted to die. And which is so just so sad. I never. Well, I'm not talking about taking my own life, but I'm just talking about that. It just felt like it would be such a relief.
Thank you for joining us on Silently Bleeding Hope for the Pastor's Wife. Today, our special guest is Michele Howard. Welcome, Michele.
Hello, thank you for having me. I appreciate being able to be here with you today. So,
Well, I'm honored that you would join us. Michele, you wrote a book a few years ago called, I believe it's Hidden Bruises and Holy Places. Is that right?
yes, that's exactly right.
I remember reading that book and wow, your story. I'm so sorry you had to walk that path, but I praise God that you're allowing that to be your testimony.
Hmm.
And I found it so informative about abuse. And so tell us a little bit about your story today.
Okay. And thank you for having me and for talking about my book. But yeah, so when I was 16, I met a man. I had always knew that I wanted to marry a minister and that I wanted to be in ministry. I actually wanted to do mission work. And so when I was 16, I met a man that was, I thought the fulfiller of all of those dreams. And he was very charismatic and extraordinarily handsome, and he would be able to control a room when he walked in. He just commanded that when he walked in. He just had that kind of presence. And of course I was very enamored because he was 28,
Mm.
and so he was 12 years older than me, and that even that in itself was that was a draw for me for sure. And he acted as if he knew the Bible backwards and forwards, and he was going to be a minister. He was a minister at the time. And so I thought, okay, well, this is the one I want. So when I was 17 is when he actually asked me to marry him. And he was 29. And I started seeing red flags of erratic behavior and things that he would do that would be just something that was not normal. But I didn't know what that was. I couldn't put a finger on it. He would yell or throw a temper tantrum. Of course, that's what I called it at the time. And he would be very controlling of me, what I wore, how I wore my hair, just all of those things. And I couldn't really put a finger on it. And so just after I turned 18 was our wedding date. And just before we got married, I went to someone and I said, I do not want to marry this man. And I wasn't sure why, but I felt like I was in a room screaming for someone to notice what all I was seeing. And I was just pretty much told, well, this is, God's will for you, to marry him. And God has worked so many things out, because they hadn't seen the behavior as much as I had, if any. So I thought, well, I guess this is what God wants me to do. So my wedding day, I was 18 and he was 30. And I just felt as if I was headed for doom my wedding day. And I did the dutiful thing and went through with it. And then immediately, the behavior became more violent, more erratic, punching holes in walls, punching out windshields in the car,
Ooh.
screaming so violently in my face that my face would be covered in his saliva, just, throwing furniture across the room, those kinds of things. And so I just learned how to deal with it. And the whole Stockholm syndrome, where you create an allegiance with your captor, your abuser, because of it's just survival mechanism, that it makes it more palatable, I guess, to live your life the way you do. And we were in ministry, so I just kept the happy face, and women were coming to me with problems, and here I was behind closed doors living with insanity. Then my boys came along, and they suffered it also. And I stayed there for 30 years and moved churches. I couldn't even tell you. I can't remember for sure how many churches, but I know from house to house we moved 25 times. And
Mm.
it's because he would get caught, or people would start, their radar would start going up on him, and he didn't like that, so he would run from that. So finally, what led to me leaving was both of my sons were grown. One was in college and one was married. And one night he was starting his insanity, and I um, decided I wasn't going to take it. And I got in a car and I was going to at least just go to a hotel for the night. That was the most brave I had ever been. And he chased me in that vehicle and in another vehicle, and flying down the highway. And he tried to, not run me off the road, but get up on the side of my vehicle so that he could, yell at me through the window and tell me what he wanted to tell me. And when that happened, he lost control of his vehicle and flipped it. And that's when I knew that he would try to control me to the death. And something in me said, "You've got to get out." And I just remember out on the side of the highway about midnight and looking up at the moon and just saying, "God, do you see? Do you see? That what I've dealt with and what I've tried to make work for 30 years." And something inside me said, "I've seen enough." And I believe that was the voice of God just saying, "I see you and I've got you," and I didn't know what that meant at the time, but through a long process I won't get into, but I was able to leave and find a new life, and God started recreating my identity and redeeming my story. And I was able to do things that I didn't even know that I had the talent for. And then married again a wonderful, wonderful man who was very instrumental in my healing. And I started a ministry for women and a website and all of that. And then he passed away suddenly.
Ugh.
And so I backed off of ministry for a while, but I'm back in full swing now. So so that's kind of my story in a nutshell.
Can I ask you some questions?
Please do.
Okay. So when you were married to your first husband, the abuser,
Mm-hmm.
were there times that maybe he felt threatened that you would leave? And if so, did he like pour on the love bombing, all these things?
It was always a love bomb situation after, one of his rages, or, that whole vicious cycle, the abuse cycle of, it's the love bombing, and it's like this honeymoon period and everything's great. And you think, okay, this is the way it's going to be forever. And then you start feeling the rumbling again. And you can almost cut the tension with a knife when you feel like one of the episodes is going to happen. I would wake up in the morning sometimes and think to myself, something's going to happen today. Just this feeling of heaviness. And so then when it would happen, then the love bombing would start. Or if I would, one time I did kind of, I got a little courage one time, and we were in another state, and I took off for the airport. And I didn't know where I was going. I was just leaving. And he found a woman's cell phone where he was, and he called me on this cell phone and just begged me to come back, and, had this talk with me about what was going on. And he was so concerned. But then it all just would happen again. So, but of course, he pulls me back in when he feels like, he may have pushed me too far. So, and he knew that really in so many ways I was the face of the ministry. Not patting myself on the back, it's because I had to be, because I had to pick up when he would be in these long bouts with himself, his demons, his depression, and all of that. He would lay in bed for days at a time and all of that. And so I would have to be the face for the ministry at those times. So, yeah.
You guys pastoring, or are you the
Yes.
pastorist pastoring?
Yeah, for most of our 30 years together, he was in a pastor situation, minister situation. Yeah. hmm
So he was very narcissistic, it sounds like.
More than I can even tell you. Yes.
Mhm.
He had been very flaunted over in sports and was close to going to the Olympics at one time and had a lot of, he had a modeling career at one time and he had a lot of the worldly things were offered to him. And I think that that, along with some of the ways that he was raised, I think it fostered more and more of that narcissism. And narcissist people do not understand. They don't, it's like they don't have a clue of the sickness that they have. And, in the world, people say, well, there's no healing a narcissist because they can never own up to anything. But I have to believe that Jesus can break through that too. And I believe he does and will for those that are willing. So,
That's the key
yes,
to
the
be willing.
willingness. Yes.
That's a rare thing, but I do believe it does happen, but unfortunately, very rarely.
Very rare. Yes, most definitely. Yeah. So when I left, I didn't even know what narcissism was. And I don't even know if I'd heard the word, to be honest.
Mhm.
And somebody brought it up to me and sent me a thing online about it. And I was like, oh my word, this is like the poster child. My husband's like the poster child for what I'm reading here. And had all these grandiose ideas, grandiose plans for himself that he was, kind of God's gift to man. And many times people had to submit to his authority instead of the authority of Jesus because they would confuse the two because he was so commanding in ways that they would confuse their allegiance to him thinking that, well, if I'm, if I submit to what he says, then I'm submitting to Jesus. And which was even the way I was, my children, other people involved in his life, other family members.
So
So
when you guys divorced, was he still a pastor?
when I first left, he was, but he didn't stay there long after I left. Again, he was very good at drawing sympathy from people. And so had some he had some ploys, I guess, or some tricks that would kind of gain sympathy for himself. And then his parents needed some help, so he moved in and took care of them until they passed away, unfortunately. But yeah, so he he was good. He was really good at what he did. The sad thing was is that I do believe that he had a real gift for speaking and for ministering, which is so odd because it's such a what is that, a paradox of what he really was inwardly, but what he, I believe, I saw so much potential in what he could have been, but
And God probably used him at times in spite of himself.
mightily, mightily. Our ministry was it was incredible, and I would not have many of the dearest friends and on in my life were from my time spent in ministry with him. And so I don't there's so much I don't regret. I wouldn't have my children, I wouldn't, but I do wish that I had known more about narcissistic abuse. I wish that I had known of places to be able to talk about it and feel free to talk about it. And there again, would I have been free to talk about it? I'm not sure. Now, of course, it sounds easy, but then I don't know. But and I wish that I had understood more about the demonic world
Mm.
The spiritual realm and what we fight, and that it is more real and active than the way that I had understood it to be before that time. So I wish I knew what I was fighting more at the time.
Right. So, a couple of things before we find out what you're doing today.
Okay.
I want you to speak to that young woman who maybe in your shoes when you were 18 and you felt like you had to marry the guy, but there were red flags. I guess I would say, what would you say to your 18-year-old self now before you married?
I would say those kind of feelings are sent by the Spirit. And I believe that that was the Spirit trying to get me to not do what I ended up doing because it affected my whole life. Um, so to listen to those gut feelings of something's not right, I can't put a finger on it. Maybe, in my case, I was told that it was probably just pre-wedding jitters and those kinds of things. And there's a difference between pre-wedding jitters and sheer dread. And if you're feeling sheer dread, then something is wrong. And something needs to either be dealt with or you need to run. Run as fast as you can. As I said, I would do it again because of my children. Um, but it was a hard life.
Yeah.
But God is using it.
Did you ever feel fear for your life
Maybe the night that he chased me
in the car?
in the car. More than anything, I think what I felt was the fact that I couldn't die. That's what I wanted. I wanted to die. And which is so sad. I never, well, I'm not talking about taking my own life, but I'm just talking about that it just felt like it would be such a relief
Mm.
for me to not have to continue to deal with all of that. And so that's the sad part of all of it, is living like that for 30 years, that you don't have that. God did give me an extra measure of joy, and so I'm grateful for that, because I do believe that's what helped me to hold on. There's no the life that you have to lead when you're in an abusive situation. It's so hopeless and dark, and you don't realize until you're in it how it controls everything about you, your emotion, your relationship with God, your relationship with other people, because you start to go inward, or the abuser is keeping you from your relationships with other people on purpose. I can't think of the word that's called right now, but isolation, where they isolate you. So it's a very lonely place to live in an abusive marriage, and even more so in ministry, because nobody can know. Nobody can know, because you lose your livelihood, you lose your influence. What about all of these people that you've influenced for the Lord?
Unfortunately, Michelle, what I found with talking with pastors' wives that are former pastors' wives that were being abused is that when they're married to a narcissist, people don't believe them.
No,
He's
no.
so charismatic.
Mhm,
He
mhm.
knows how to play the game well.
Absolutely.
They, I know of a situation where the guy is still pastoring today because they blamed it all on her, you know.
I've heard so many in my work with women about that, or they're told, they go to churches or pastors or counselors or whatever, and they're made to feel like the victim again. They're re-victimized, and they're told, well, pray more. What are you doing wrong? How can you fix you?
Give him more sex.
I know. Exactly. Exactly. It's like, well, what is he missing that
Yeah.
and there's nothing that you're going to be able to do to fix someone like that. And that's what, I was constantly trying to fix, constantly for 30 years, trying to fix anything that I could about me, or anything that, try to stay a step ahead of the rage, and walking on eggshells for 30 years. And, you're constantly trying to hold everything together, and it is exhausting, and it's impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
So 30 years with your abusive pastor husband. And then after that, God gave you an amazing husband, powerful, loving, compassionate man of God.
Yes.
And you were married to him for 7 years, did you say?
7 years.
And
Yes.
he went to heaven.
Yes.
So what,
Suddenly.
oh, I'm so sorry. So what are you doing now?
So after he passed away, I kind of pulled back from ministry, from from doing even things like this, from writing, from I pulled back from all of it. I didn't even really promote my book because it just seemed overwhelming at the time. And I kind of went into my own little world, my own little cozy place in life where I could heal. I think not only from, the 30 years of abuse, which had already pretty much been healed, but also just from the grief of and the shock of losing my second husband. And also, I think God had so much more work to do on me personally in these last few years since my husband died to ready me more for the calling that I believe has been on my life, really my whole life.
Mm.
And I think he had some more dross to burn away. And so I married again and moved up on a mountain, and we started building a house. We're still in that process. It's been a long process. And but in that time of building a house, I believe God's been building me back, and so it's like all of that time with my second husband was a preparation for now, which I didn't know at the time, but it was just like, I created the website, I wrote the book, I started speaking, spoke to small audiences up to pretty quite significant audiences. And then I stepped away from it all, had to kind of rethink some things in my own life and what God needed to do with me, and He made me more ready.
Mm.
So, um, so that's where I'm at now. I'm writing again. I'm a spiritual mentor for women. I have a mentorship program that women can reclaim their identity, their divine identity as a daughter of the King. And I was reading this morning in 1 Samuel 10:25, and it says, Samuel explained to the people the behavior of royalty, and he wrote them down and he presented it before the Lord. And that is what exactly I have been doing, is I've been writing down the behavior of God's daughters and how they carry themselves in life, how they think about themselves, how they speak over themselves, how they walk as a divine daughter of the King, whether they are still in a marriage that's not great, or whether they've left or had some other sort of trauma, or even not trauma, maybe just trying to reach higher. God He's always in the business of redemption, always.
Did
So.
you have you been through therapy?
I didn't go through actual therapy. When I left the first marriage and when I was in the second marriage, I went through three different recovery programs.
Okay.
And when I say recovery, I was not addicted, to any substance or anything like that. It was for me to learn about me
Mm.
and me to learn about why I was codependent and what I had done to the things that I had failed in, perhaps, and all of that. Not that my failures caused him to act that way, but we always have things that we have to work on. And so I went through three different recovery programs of getting free of old strongholds and word curses, getting rid of all of that, and any demonic stronghold that might be still lingering because of the connection with my first husband and all of that. I went through basically a freedom process from all of that. So I went through three programs of that, and then I became certified in trauma, not recovery, trauma. I'm trauma informed. That's what it's called. I'm certified in being trauma informed, and so I've done a lot of those kinds of things. And God is the great counselor, the mighty counselor, the Prince of Peace. Jesus is. And I'm not saying that therapy is not good. It is. I'm just saying it, you know what? I take that back. Through some sessions of therapy, through a season.
You froze when you said I take that back. So if you can
Oh, okay.
therapy season.
Okay. I did go through some therapy sessions. It had slipped my mind. I've been through so many things. I did go through some therapy sessions for a while. I sure did. Yeah. So I've been through a lot of healing processes,
Mm-hmm.
I guess you would say, and freedom processes. And now I know how to help other women do the same thing.
So,
So, yeah.
so Michele, for that sweet woman of God that is watching right now, and she's like, well, that's great. Michele got out, but I'm right in the midst of this horrific situation. What would you say to her? Look in the camera and just speak to her, please.
Okay. That God is not through with you, and that God does have a plan for your life, and that you are a daughter of the King, and that you deserve to be treated as a daughter of the King of Heaven, and that you can walk in royalty. First Peter says that we are a chosen, we are royalty, we are priests of God. And so you need to make sure that you're being treated as such. And you need to walk in that and talk in that and speak it over your life and trust God to make things happen that will ultimately be just for your good.
Amen. Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Sure.
So
Mhm.
you're in your third marriage. I'm
Yes.
assuming,
Never thought I'd say that.
I'm assuming this is
Never thought
a
I'd say I'll be married 3 times.
right. I'm assuming this is a godly man and a wonderful marriage.
It's a wonderful marriage. He's an awesome man. He's building our house with his own hands, and he adores me, and it's going wonderful. So I'm so blessed in so many ways.
I'm so grateful to hear that and so happy for you. And
Thank you.
appreciate you sharing your story with us. And I just want to say, sweet woman of God, thank you for joining us today. If you are going through a situation and you need prayer, I'll leave our email address down below. Be sure and reach out, and I promise you, I will get back with you as quickly as possible. I will be praying for you. I'm also going to leave down below a link where you can find the book that Michele wrote and also her website. And so be sure and check all of those things out and know that you are seen, you are heard, and you are not alone.
Amen.
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 God bless, my friend.
God bless you.
Thank you for watching Silently Bleeding, Finding Hope for the Pastor's Wife. I look forward to connecting with you. Feel free to leave me comments down below and make sure and subscribe. If you want to know every time a new video is coming out, hit the bell. I would be so delighted if you would also hit the like button, and feel free to share this video with anyone you know that this would encourage. Blessings, my friends.